there's a gold standard of whitewater venues. It lives here in Augsburg, Germany. The Ice Canal has it all. Challenging whitewater rapids, a magical history which includes hosting the 1972 Olympic canoeing events, and a beautiful park-like setting in a picturesque German city. Today, the world's best paddlers bring their A-game to the sport's A-plus venue. It's Whitewater Slalom World Cup action from the Ice Canal in Augsburg.
We're really lucky. We have 41 countries from around the world here, and a total of 275 athletes. In canoe slalom, we have all the best athletes of the World Cup. So Tony Estanguet, Peter Kauser, the British are here. They've done really well this year. And Jana Dukotova from Slovakia in the women, Xian in the C1 from China. So it's really been a good year this year with every single top athlete competing, and that's led to a really good World Cup series for us. Most of the athletes now will take a quick break. They'll probably take a bit of a holiday, and then they will start preparing for the World Championships this year, which will be held in Slovenia in September. And that will be the last big race of the season. Going towards next year is a big year because it's the Olympic qualifier at the World Championships in 2011, and I think most people are gearing towards qualifying for the Olympic Games. So next year is a very serious year. It's really important for most of the athletes, and also for us, we're increasing the World Cup series next year to 4 events. So there'll be 3 heats and then a final overall final competition. Both the canoe sprint and the canoe slalom World Cup series have been very successful for us. We've made great advances with the television and the media aspect of it. The highlights package that we do from the ICF has been a big success and been taken by 20 to 30 countries around the world. But more importantly, our canoekayak.tv and our website have seen a really big increase in number of people watching, being able to get live results, being able to watch the actual races. And here for the first time we have what we call video on demand. So every single individual athlete, you can go in and you can actually watch the run that athlete does, and you can actually go backwards and forwards and see, did he miss a gate, did he hit the gate, what is the technique, and that's a really big advance for our sport.
Starting off with the men's doubles canoe, 10 boats here in the final of the World Cup in Augsburg. And dropping in now at the top of the course are Bailey and Stott from Great Britain. 2 men in the boat, paddling on opposite sides of the boat. These boys are on their knees using one-bladed paddle. The name of the game here is synchronization, trying to hit as many of those strokes together as possible. The rules of the sport: upstream around the red poles, like this up on the far side of the river, pushing off the wall, downstream around the greens, like they're doing right now. These green poles are some of the toughest gate positions I've ever seen here in Augsburg, but Bailey and Stott making it look easy, working together very nicely. Nice, soft style, good work together. A little bit low into the upstream on the far side of the river, back out into the middle, get the boat moving downstream as they approach the finish line. Big, hard strokes, and it's going to be a good result for Great Britain here in the World Cup final. Now getting our first look at the French doubles canoe team of Fabien Lefebvre and Denis Gargaud. Paddling through the churning waters of the rapid, the athletes call the washing machine. Paddling very nicely together. This boat has a terrific story. The bowman, or the athlete in front, Fabien Lefebvre, an Olympic medalist and world champion in the men's kayak category, and Gargaud in the stern or the back of the doubles canoe, a singles canoe paddler, both racing 2 categories, both with big aspirations to win medals in their individual boats in London, but now working together very well through the bottom section of the course. Very patient, very deliberate. One of the doubles canoe category's newer boats paddling very well. They got onto the podium last year in the World Cup, and they'd love to make a return trip here in the final in Augsburg, and they're doing just that. A good sprint to the finish, short, quick strokes, all together. The French are going to be happy with this result here in the final. Dropping in at the top of the course, the German crew of Schroeder and Hens, utilizing the home field advantage for all that they can. That means they know this water well, and they enjoy the cheers and support of the fans and their athletes and coaches running them down the course. This German team really prioritizes strength and power. Big strokes over to the upstream on the far side of the course, in and out of that up, bullying their way through the rapids on their way into the bottom section of this course, setting up the offset gates. Nice lateral movement across the channel into the upstream, in and out with a push off the wall. They've got a lot of momentum. They know they've got a good run going now through the spin dry. Nice balance and move around the downstream against the wall, out of the tunnel, and on their way to the finish. They've got a great run going. Big strokes to the finish. And that looks like a gold medal performance for the Germans. The race was really good. We touched a gate at the bottom of the course, but it was still okay. The public is very supportive, and we would like to say thank you to them. And the weather was also very nice. So it's Germany's Schroeder and Hens taking the gold, France's Lefebvre-Gargot-Canoe taking the silver, and Great Britain's Bailey and Scott taking the bronze. But it's Slovakia's Skantar and Skantar taking the World Cup title. Now moving on to the women's single canoe here at the World Cup final on the ice canal in Augsburg, Germany. The 10 best women canoeists in the world, headlined by Jana Dukatova from Slovakia. Dropping in at the top of the course, Australia's Leanne Guinea, taking a little bit of a conservative line here at the washing machine where the water is very tricky. Leanne making a calculated move to eddy out at the top of the course, give herself a better chance of making it through the gate fast and clean. That is the name of the game. Guinea has been a very consistent performer through the whole World Cup series. She'd love to finish this final with a spot on the podium. Nice work on the offset gates. Her bow clips that green gate, which is going to be a 2-second penalty added on for Guinea. But got to keep moving forward. Paddling now behind the whale rock, across the slow water, setting up the reverse gate, onto the wave. Pulls the boat right into the eddy, push off the wall, a very nice move. Oh, and Guinea flips over and she's back upright again. Great adjustment there by Guinea in the middle of the course and on her way to the finish. What a great correction of the mistake, and still keeps her in line for a chance at the podium. One women's canoeist that won't be paddling conservatively is this one, Nangying Sun from China. Paddling very well, a nice direct move through the downstream off the start at the washing machine. And now a direct move here at the surf wave in the middle of the course to a one-stroke upstream. Her early risks are paying off well for her, very fast through the top half of the course. Now soon moving through the bottom of the course, through the slack water, gets pushed a little bit off balance, having to fight her way over to the upstream gate. Does make it in and out. Now the setup for the challenging offset move into the spin drive, and soon gets rejected by the current. The water stacked up on the edge of the boat, forcing her to spin around and try the move again. Ferries out and across from the spin dry, spinning backwards around the pole. She'll be glad to get out of this section with no missed gates. On her sprint to the finish, those early risks could pay off for her. It's going to be close. Soon at the finish, looks like a gold medal performance for China. So it's China's Sun taking the gold, Australia's Guinea the silver, and the Czech Republic's Hoskova the bronze. And that gold medal performance by Sun is good enough to give her the World Cup title. Now ready for the men's kayak here at the World Cup final in Augsburg, Germany. A very decorated field featuring the Olympic champion from Germany, Alexander Grimm. First, dropping in at the top of the course, Grimm's teammate, Paul Bokelman, with some nice kayaking through the washing machine at the top of the course, just blistering this top section. The men's kayak seated with their feet in front of them using two-bladed paddles, upstream around the red, like that one stroke up right there, downstream around the greens, like Bokelman is doing so nicely here in the middle of the course. He has a lot of support from the local fans, his fellow teammates and coaches running him down the course. Bokelman doesn't take any extra lines between the gates, as short and tight as possible, a big, strong paddler, moving into the offset move that has set back a few paddlers in this race, but not Bokelman, right around the downstream and into the up. Very tight line, heading into the tricky offset here at the spin dry. Catches a little bit of an edge, but is going to correct nicely. On his way to the finish, big sprinting strokes. Bokelman making a bid for the podium. Dropping in at the top of the course, Germany's Alexander Grimm, making nice work of the offset gates here in the washing machine. Now getting his paddle blades up to that warp speed, moving very quickly through the water. A nice pivot turn on the tail of the boat around that upstream gate. Now moving into the upstream on the far side of the course. One sweep and out, heading into the offsets. Grimm paddling very confidently and very quickly. The Olympic champion from the Beijing Olympics, you can feel him beginning to pick up steam, headed towards London. Nice surf move into the upstream on the far side. Lots of cheers, lots of support for this home team. Grimm working his way into the spin dry, a very tricky offset. Water shooting off the rock. No problem for Grimm, uses the current very nicely. On his way to the finish. Big sprint for Grimm, and looking like another podium performance for a German kayaker. Now getting a look at Hans Eigner from the German team. The third men's kayak from Germany in the World Cup final. That in itself, a victory for the German program. Eigner with a terrific upstream on the near side of the river, and into the up on the far side, the best one we've seen today. Beautiful offsets off the tail of the boat, keeping full forward momentum. Great moves through the offset. Now setting up for the wave move, a quick pivot turn, very tight. One stroke on the wave into the eddy, catches a little bit of an edge, sweeps out. He's going to take a little more risk, moving to the bottom of the course. That's the name of the game here in men's kayak. A quick upstream, one of the best we've seen all day. Now into the spin dry. Great momentum off the ricochet of the rock. Out sprinting to the finish. The Germans have a chance to go for a sweep. Are they going to get it? Yes! A gold medal run for Eigner. I come from Augsburg, so I know this race course very well. I felt like I'm home, and I was in great shape, so everything was good. So it is indeed a German sweep, with Eigner taking the gold, Grimm taking the silver, and Bokelman taking the bronze. But taking the World Cup overall title is Italy's Daniel Momenti. women's kayak here at the World Cup final in Augsburg. The best 10 women's kayaks in the world all want the same thing, to be crowned World Cup champion. Our first women's kayak on the course is Elizabeth Neve from Great Britain. Very relaxed, very smooth through the offset gates in the washing machine. Very even-keeled and balanced as she works her way into the first upstream gate on the course. The women's kayak seated with their feet in front of them using a two-bladed paddle. Neve spinning the boat around on a pivot, taking a 2-second penalty for touching that pole. Got to put the mistakes behind you and focus on what's ahead. Neve from the Great British team looking forward to a home country Olympic Games in just 2 years. But first things first, the World Cup final here on the ice canal. A very nice move into the final upstream gate, working her way out to the very challenging offset in the spin dry. Nice balance and edge work for Neve. Good backstroke, getting her boat back into the current on her sprint to the finish. Elizabeth Neve picking just the right time for her best World Cup performance of the season. Now dropping in at the top of the course is Slovakia's Jana Dukatova. Nice movement through the downstream gates at the washing machine. Jana, one of the few paddlers today, racing 2 categories, already made her run in the women's singles canoe. Now going for gold in the women's kayak class with a nice upstream gate at the bottom of the zoom flume. Jana is that perfect blend of strength, finesse, and balance. Balancing her way through that upstream gate, coming out of the zoom flume. Coming from that Slovak program, she competes fiercely with her teammate, the reigning Olympic champion, Elena Kaliska. There's no doubt Dukatova sure would like to win that gold in London in 2012. Paddling very methodically through the upstream after the surf wave. On her way to the bottom of the course, a sprint to the finish. One of the best kayak runs we've seen from Dukatova in the World Cup. Speaking of fierce competition on the same team, the competition doesn't get any more fierce than the Germans' women's kayak as we look at Jennifer Baumgart, past world champion that trains right here on the ice canal in Augsburg, and her training partner, Jasmine Schoenborg, took the gold medal at the World Championship last year. Both would love to represent Germany at the Olympic Games in London. Baumgart wants to get that going with a podium performance. Would be her first of the season of 2010, making nice work, very agile through the downstream offset gates in the middle of the course, setting up the tricky offset move across the wave. Nice easy pivot turn, floats the boat right onto the wave and into the upstream for a one-stroke sweep exit, back into the current. Baumgart finding the momentum that she's looking for on her sprint to the finish. It's going to be close for Baumgart. Looks like a gold medal performance for Germany's Baumgart. So it's Germany's Baumgart taking the gold, Slovakia's Dukatova the silver, and Great Britain's Neve the bronze. But thanks to consistent paddling through this World Cup, it's Slovakia's Dukatova taking the World Cup title. Now moving on to the men's single canoe here at the World Cup final in Augsburg. The field of 10 headlined by reigning world champion France's Tony Estanguet. Dropping in at the top of the course is Germany's own Sideris Tassadis, nicely through the offset gates, through the washing machine. These men's singles canoes are kneeling on 2 knees and using a one-bladed paddle. The rules of the game is upstream through the red poles, like that one right there at the zoom flume. Downstream around the greens. 2 seconds if you touch the poles, 50 seconds if you miss. Paddling nice and cleanly right now is Germany's Tassadis, very nicely around the offset, working the tail of the boat very nicely, keeping the bow nice and dry. Has a nice style, very predictable, good surf on the wave, into the eddy, pushes off the wall in one stroke, has a ton of momentum moving into the bottom section of the course, not to mention the German fans cheering for their hometown favorites. Nice pivot turn around the hydraulic, over across to the upstream, tight in and out of the final upstream and headed towards the spin dry and into the sprint to the finish. A good run in the World Cup final for Tsatis. One athlete who's been picking up his game through the World Cup is Tony Estanguet, the reigning world champion, with a nice move above the whale rock, keeping his boat online and on target through the upstream gate on his way towards the Zoom flume. Tony representing the French team, very decorated program, very proud of their results here on the Ice Canal here in Augsburg. The two-time Olympic champion would love to get number 3 in London, but first things first, he's got the World Cup final and making nice movement through the downstream offset gates. Now setting up the tricky wave move, shoots the bow around, a cross bow stroke into the upstream, in and out. One of the nicest we've seen today. Now moving into the bottom section of the course, setting up this offset move at the hydraulic and a sweep stroke, cross bow, one stroke into the up, in and out. Estanguet, a paddler, is just building momentum along the way on his sprint to the finish. A great performance in the final for Estanguet. Our last boat in the men's single canoe final today is Germany's Nico Betzky. He trains on this course, he knows it well, and one of the very nice veterans of the sport as well. One thing about whitewater slalom, as you get a little older and a little more experience, you pick up a lot of the tricks of the water. Betzky making good use of that right here. Very calculated strokes, waiting for the water to really pick up on the bottom of the boat and give him a little bit more help. Nice, consistent style, very predictable. Gives himself a very good chance of being successful through a very challenging course. One of the most challenging courses we've seen on the World Cup this year. Nice one-stroke upstream in the middle of the course. Very physical up top with 3 upstream gates. More challenging downstream offsets here at the bottom. Brings the bow around very nicely, carries good speed into that upstream. Now headed towards the final offset at the spin dry. Very nice cross-current momentum around the bottom pole on the sprint to the finish, and the Germans are just putting on an exhibition today. Betzky at the finish, gold for Germany. So it's Germany's Betzky taking the gold, France's Estanguet the silver, and Germany's Tsatis the bronze. But taking the overall World Cup title, it's Slovakia's Mate Benes. For nearly 40 years, the Ice Canal has challenged the world's best slalom racers, and today was no different. As any champion paddler will tell you, if you can win in Augsburg, you can win anywhere. It's been a spectacular season of whitewater slalom World Cup racing. Thanks for tuning in, and congratulations to our champions.